back to Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. This is episode 7. I got Whitney here with me. How you doing today, Whitney?
Doing lovely, not too bad.
You've been wanting to come on, so we finally got you on here. You excited? Are you nervous? How you feeling?
Honestly, I'm a little nervous.
All right.
I'm excited though.
All right, that's normal. All right, how old are you?
35.
35. So you were born in 89?
Yes, me.
All
Or
right.
yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, I was saying, I know, man. All right. Where you grew up in Tacoma?
Absolutely, born and raised.
All right. You never moved out of Tacoma at all?
Well, I moved to Federal Way, but
Okay.
I moved to Kent. Other than that, Tacoma is
For people who don't know where Federal Way is at, what's that in comparison to Tacoma?
It's like that. To me, it's the same. I was never in the streets like that. I go home, go to work, come home, and mind my business. The outside life is not made for me.
All right. So growing up, when you was growing up, was it just you and your mom and dad, or how was that? What was that dynamic like?
Growing up, it was me. I was raised by a single mom, so it was me and my sisters and my brothers and then my mom.
All right. How many sisters?
3.
3. Okay. I think I know. Nisha's your sister, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta get Nisha on the podcast. That'd be crazy. Nisha, wild. Shout out to Nisha. Nisha is crazy. She was one of the first people I met when I moved to Tacoma the second time.
Yeah.
This time it was one of the first people I met. So that was cool. I know you got another sister. I'll be seeing her all the time, but I never met her though. Y'all all kind of like look alike too.
I mean,
That's how whenever I didn't know that you were her sister, but when I first seen you the first time, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she must be related to Nisha. But y'all all look alike.
I guess we get it from our mom, because
Okay. You
that's
look
the
like your
only
mom?
common person.
Okay. So you didn't know your dad growing up?
My dad died when I was 3, and so I never got to know him. So
Oh.
it was just like, I guess there's some guy out there that I ain't never met.
Yeah.
But then
How did he pass away?
I don't know. Somebody murdered him.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Here in Tacoma?
Yeah.
Oh well, I mean that kind of makes sense.
Which is so crazy because I found myself going back to that area where he was murdered at.
Okay. Growing up without your father, knowing that he was murdered, how did that affect you growing up?
Oh, I'd be mad. I'm mad at every guy that I ever met.
You're mad at every guy you ever met?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because I feel like, because I didn't have my dad, I feel like, because I don't have a dad, I feel like it affects me, and I don't know how to accept love from a guy because I never had a dad.
Okay. You had no male role models at all growing up?
I mean, I had a stepdad, but I despise him. I hate him.
Why is that?
He molested me.
Oh my God. So I did have somebody on the podcast before who spoke about that, and that's unfortunate. So I know you told me when you did your pre-questions for the podcast, you told me that you were never clinically diagnosed, but you did suffer with depression and anxiety. Was that stemming from that, or is that stemming from your father?
I feel like it took, I think that takes a role in my whole life dynamic, like from the time I was born until now. Like, I still deal with it sometimes.
Okay. All right. So did that affect your siblings as well, like that?
I honestly, I don't know because they don't really talk about it.
Okay. All right. So that was never brought up, like, growing up, like, about the unfortunate situation that happened?
I never really told nobody, so this is the first time somebody's gonna find out about it.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to pause there for a second. Lead us back up. For those of you guys who are tuning in and watching this episode, if you haven't already, let's go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, if you have any questions about it, go ahead and drop some questions in the comments, and we'll get those questions answered, if not on this podcast, on the next podcast. And big shout out to everybody who did drop some questions. We will get those questions answered by Whitney over here. And she has no earthly idea about the questions. She didn't even know there was questions being asked. So these questions are going to be, these answers are going to be super authentic. So I'm excited about that. So back into you growing up, dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety as a kid, and especially not since you weren't speaking about it to like your family about what's going on, how did you cope with that as a kid?
Like in my house, everything was swept under the rug. People just looked the other way. Nobody really done anything about anything. And my mom, like I've had my mom, but she wasn't very present.
Oh,
So it was just like,
was she not present because she was like out working and doing stuff like that, or?
well, my mom, she in the beginning she was a drug addict, alcoholic, and so she was like really never present. She was there, but she wasn't the mother that I needed growing up. And then as I got older, she worked a lot because she had 7 kids to take care of.
Seven? Oh yeah, you did say. Oh man, that's crazy. I come from a seven child household too as well. Um, I wouldn't say my mom was a single mom. We did have a stepfather growing up, but you know, I like to always say that a stepfather is not the same as your birth father.
Yeah,
Even though I feel like my stepfather, you know, he's a man and he had his flaws, um, but I feel like that he, to me personally, I'll speak for myself. I feel like that I'm grateful to have had him, even though as a kid I always took on the role as, you know, this is my family. You know, I'm the oldest boy. You
yeah,
know, but me and him, we bumped heads a couple times on along the way, but um, you know, he did step up, and he did the best he could. I guess you could say. I mean, in my opinion, you know, some people might say he could have done better, but we all gonna say
yeah,
that, you know. But I'm grateful to have had him to, you know, show me, you know, good things about being a man, uh, you know, and show me some things that I don't want to carry on into my life.
yeah.
You know, he's not perfect, so big shout out to him for that. Um, so as a kid, dealing with depression, anxiety, like how was that in school? Like how did that affect you, like with school, making friends and stuff like that?
I've never really made friends. Like going to school, I'd sit in the back of the class and wouldn't bother nobody. I've been elementary. I moved around so many times. I never stuck to one school. So
Why was that?
my mom just moved. We just moved a lot,
Okay.
and we went to from house to house to house. And so, like every time we moved, we had to up and go to a new school, which was even harder to make friends. So,
So would you say that your whole life that you spent your whole life being on loner in a sense?
yeah,
Do you like being a loner, or would you prefer to have friends?
I prefer to have friends, real genuine friends
Yeah, that's
that
tough these days.
really like reach out to you. Like I have a friend, but I wouldn't even call her a friend. The only time I hear from her is if I pick up the phone to call her.
You know, I've had so many conversations with people about that, from my mom to my friends to, you know, it's just kind of weird these days, like how people call you their friends, but they only hit you up when they need you, or when they only hit you up when they need you, or you only hear from them when you call them. Like you have to do all the effort when friendships are like relationships, right? You know, like
Yeah,
so. Well, they are relationships. They're similar to intimate relationships without the intimacy, meaning like communication,
yeah,
loyalty, love, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people, well, I'll say this. It's kind of funny too, because I'll say this. I see friends, like my same friends. I'll see them be, you know, super outgoing and communicative. Uh, that's how you say the word. You know what I mean.
yeah.
Communicative with other people. Like you'll
Oh,
see
yeah.
them out going doing functions and doing all this stuff, but then it's like you didn't hit me up, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
And it's kind of like, so I can relate on that. It's kind of that can kind of cause some kind of like, you know, like internal like self doubt, you know, because it's like almost like worthiness.
I mean, yeah, the girl, she'd be like, let's go do something. I'm like, yeah, come on, let's go. Like, the only time I really actually heard from her is when I was in my phase of going to the casino. No lie. She would call me and be like, come on, you want to go to the casino? I'd be like, sure, why not? And of course, she didn't have no car, which I didn't mind. But because that was my friend, well, at least I thought she was my friend. But if I only hear from you when I pick up the phone to call you, then I'm not about to keep calling you my friend.
Correct. Yeah. So I also asked you in your interview questions about suicidal thoughts. Did those start when you was a child, or were they when you got older?
They started when I was like, I want to say like 12.
Okay. What led to those thoughts? Was it the trauma from when you was a
It
kid?
was just all the
Everything.
trauma that I've ever dealt with.
Okay. And you never attempted it, but you just thought about it, you never attempted it?
I've thought about it. I thought about it a couple times. Even like right after my mom died, they came back. Like, but I never did it because
Wait, so you lost both your parents?
yeah,
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. How'd your mom pass?
she just got really sick. In 2018, she slipped and fell in the kitchen and broke her leg and dislocated her shoulder. And then from that, her health just went downhill. So she was on dialysis, and then after that, she lost one leg, and then she lost another leg the year right after that one. And so then, I guess she just felt like she done fought a lot of battles, and I've watched her fight every battle that she's ever went through. So I feel like I'm mad at her in a way because I feel like I lost my mom twice.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine losing my mom. I hope that I don't lose her for a long time. I know death is part of life. You
Yeah.
know, they like to say like you're living to die, but I pray that I don't lose my mom for a long time. I hope I have one of those moms who lives into her hundreds. She's very vibrant too. And she's. Yeah, I don't want to call her old. She'll be mad at me. But she's not old. Obviously, she can't be old because if she's old, then I'm old because she had us young.
Yeah.
And when you look at her, you would never think that she was 50s.
Oh.
Sorry, mom, for throwing your age out there. But you would never think that she was in her 50s. A lot of people they think that when they see her, like especially they see us together, a lot of times they think that we're like sister or brother, or even had people before when I was younger think that we're a couple.
Oh my goodness.
Some people get offended by that, man. Me and my mom do. I think my mom plays into it actually because
Yeah.
she thinks it's hilarious. But yeah, so I think that my mom, hopefully, me and her and all of my siblings, I hope that we can live to be really old. So because age is a reward. So back to when you were 12, what got you through? Those suicidal thoughts. I know you said you thought about them, and you also said that you could never do it. What got you through those times?
I would just think about how my mom would feel
Okay.
and how my sisters would feel.
Are you and your sisters close?
Um, Nowadays, I feel like we're just all strangers because now that they moved to Arizona, I barely hear from them. So it's like,
You're the only one still here?
well, no, Crystal's still here,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
but we don't
That's so
have
funny.
a relationship like that.
Yeah.
Like my other two sisters that moved to Arizona, we had a relationship like that. Like I could call them, they'd call me, and we'd kick it all day long. But now I feel like we're just adults living in our own little worlds, and we're strangers now.
What about your brothers? Where are they at?
I don't really associate with them.
Don't tell me this is because of your hate for men.
No, it's not even
I was
that.
about to say, that's crazy.
So like some of my older two brothers, they just don't reach out. Nobody talks to each other. Honestly, nobody really communicates with anybody like that. And I feel like since losing our mom, I feel like everybody just went their own way and nobody comes together now.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. That's kind of like one of my biggest fears as well. Like I said, we have kind of the same family dynamic. We have our fathers, but our fathers are not with our mother. And you said there's how many girls?
There's four.
4 girls, 3 boys. That's the same as us. I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers. And it's so weird because I talk about this sometimes about how like my sisters, they're all clicked up together and they're like buddy, and then then it's our us boys. We don't all ever come together. And like growing up, that was like I'm not growing up, but when I first became an adult, like that was like one of my biggest things is I wanted us all to be together.
Yeah.
And along the way, I did a lot of things that could probably like hindered some stuff in relationships. And that's just how siblings are.
I don't know, like for me, I was in the delivery. I was so close with all my sisters that I was in the delivery room for when they gave birth to all their kids.
That's awesome, man. It's unfortunate. Though,
And
that,
so now that I have my own daughter and they wasn't there, I feel some type of way.
you told them about this?
No,
Why not?
because what they gonna do? They all the way in Georgia, or I mean Arizona.
Oh, you're saying that they weren't there because of the distance.
Yeah, but
Oh,
I
okay.
feel like if they was here, then they would have been there.
Oh,
like I
okay,
was.
okay.
But I mean, I'm mad. Well, I'm not even mad no more.
You got to kind of be understanding. I mean, economy's hard, man. And then he plays. Because your daughter's what now? 1?
Yeah,
Shout out to Harmony. She's the good.
that's my best friend.
All right. So, did the suicidal thoughts and stuff like that? Did that surpass, or did you something you still battle with when you got to high school?
When I got to high school, they was like there, but they like never really came forward. So like they was there in the back of my head, but I never really had a thought like that.
Okay.
Like they would play, but I wouldn't let them like be stronger than what I had going on.
Did you ever speak to any of like your school counselors regarding that or anything like that?
No,
Why not?
I didn't think that they would do anything. I didn't think that they'd care. Like I just feel like people at school or like the counselors at school, I feel like they say they're there for people, but then they're not really there.
I got you. All right. So, what you have just the one kid, Harmony?
Well, I have 6 kids. Harmony is the only one that I gave birth to.
Explain that.
So when COVID happened, I was working 2 jobs, and one of my jobs was a daycare. I work at a daycare. And COVID happened, COVID hit the world, and the world shut down. So then this lady that was taking her kids to the daycare I was working at, she needed a sitter for her kids.
Okay.
And so she asked me to take them in and watch them on the weekends. And the weekends turned to every day, which I didn't mind because I loved them.
Okay.
And so it started out with just 3, but she had 4. She got 4. She has her 3 nieces and her nephew, and then she has her own son. So then shortly after that, the girl had another baby. So her brother's baby's mom had another baby, and they needed another adult to move into the household so that she could get all of them in one household because she didn't want the kids to go to foster care.
Okay.
And so I filled out the paperwork to become like a foster type person to be around foster kids. And so I moved in with her, and we became a team. And so when I say I got kids, I say I got 5 kids, 6
Okay.
kids.
Now, what's the ages of these kids?
8, 7, 5, and 4.
Okay. All right. So, before we move forward, we can answer some of these questions that our supporters
Okay.
suggested. So, we got David from Facebook. He says, "What were some of the struggles as a mom? What were the struggles as a mom? What are the different parenting viewpoints from a mother and a father, in your opinion? And what are the favorite lessons you taught your kids and see happen?"
I think that, like, for me, because my mom didn't really show up for me like that, I want to make sure I show up for my kid.
Okay.
So I want to be present for my kid. I want to show up to every function that she got. Everything that
What kind of
got
interest
going
is she?
on.
I know she's young, but like, what is she like really interested in right now?
She likes reading books.
Okay.
And she likes getting herself dressed. I don't know what it is with her. And then
Definitely a mama's girl, because when we came out here to do this, immediately she seen you walking around that corner and she started crying.
Oh yeah, because I'm all she know.
Okay. And then another question we had from one of our Facebook supporters was from Connie. She says, "Would you choose a different father if you knew you were going to be single? Do you feel like you have to protect your child from the other parent? If so, why? And do you consider this a blessing or a mistake?"
I look at my daughter as a blessing
Okay.
because when I look at I was mad when I found out I was pregnant.
Why's that?
Because I wasn't ready to be a mom. Like, I was homeless and I was sleeping in my car and I had nowhere to go. I was bouncing off people's couches from this couch to that couch to that couch and just had nowhere to go, and I was sleeping in my car. And then I found out I was having a daughter, and I was even more mad.
You wanted a son?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I wanted to have a son, but now when I look at my daughter, it's a blessing because now I feel like I got a piece of my mom back.
Ooh, okay. And so the other part of the question was, what happened with the father? Are you still with the father? No, you said
No.
you're single, right? All right. So the other part of her question was, would you choose a different father if you knew you were going to be single?
Honestly, no.
Why is that?
Because I feel like anybody could have just left.
Okay. Were you guys in a relationship, or is it like one of those like?
Honestly, it wasn't even a relationship. And then when I had my daughter, I thought that he would be like more welcoming and more.
All right, we're back. We're back. We had some technical difficulties. Thank you for being patient. Had to fix those real quick. But back to the questions from our subscribers. The last one we had before you get back to your story was from Michael. Like I said, it kind of pertains to you. It kind of doesn't. But his question is, if the father isn't around, how do you balance being both figures? I.e., if you have a boy growing up, teaching him how to be how to be a boy, growing into being a man, or dealing with even a mini version of you. Like, how would you approach that as a single mom?
I just take life one day at a time. Ain't no way around that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't ask to be a single mom, so it's like I guess it just comes naturally since I was raised by a single mom.
You said you wanted to have a boy originally. That was your hopes and wishes. I mean, obviously.
That was.
So, how do you think it would have been to raise a boy and not have the father be super present and super active in his child's life?
Honestly, I feel like it'd just be the same way that as it is now with my daughter. I mean, I didn't ask to be a single mom, but I'm not about to force nobody to be no parent.
Okay. And then, so I asked you this earlier, but we had those technical difficulties, so I didn't pick it up. So I'm going to circle back to it for the subscribers to hear your answer to it. So basically, when it comes to the father, how did you guys meet, and what was like the demise of you guys' relationship, or the lack thereof? And how did you guys meet? Let's start there.
We met in high school,
Okay.
so I've known him since high school. And then after high school, everybody fell off, and nobody knew him. Nobody stayed in contact with nobody. So I went my way, he went his way. He ended up in prison, and then he got out, and then we started talking again. And then one thing led to another, and I had my wonderful daughter. And boy, I love her.
All right. And y'all never talked about being like in a relationship, or?
I mean, because of the last relationship I was in, I had so many high hopes. And I had so many boundaries that when I started with him, I let him know what it was. Like, I'm not about to deal with it. And so the minute when I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter, some girl that he was talking to, my child's father was talking to, hit me up talking about I was just a bitter baby mom and I was looking for pity, or I was a baby mom looking for pity. I was like, girl, bye. And I left that at that. And I like mentally checked out.
Okay, so I was going to move. I had another question I was going to ask you, but after reading through the questions that the subscribers asked, one of the subscribers from Facebook, Bucket Getter, that kind of goes into his question that he asked. He asked, asked why it didn't work out. You answered that, but he said, all the deadbeat daddy BS aside, right? He says, is there anything on your part that you feel like you could have done differently to make the relationship have worked and have you guys stay together?
Honestly, no. I think it just wasn't meant to be. And honestly, I feel like I feel like I'm just, because of everything that I went through, I don't think I'm ready to have a relationship until I can mentally and physically heal myself from everything that I've been through.
So that's always funny, not funny, but like weird when people say that because if you're not ready to be in a relationship, right? Um, because of like something you need to heal from, then why put yourself out there sexually for intimacy if you're not ready for a relationship? Because it's gonna now you have like your daughter, and you know it's not her fault, and I mean she's here now, so you have to deal with it. But that's one of the things that comes from that is you know you can get a child, and you know you be tied to this person that you're not even ready to be in a relationship with, or even in a relationship with anyone for a long time. But now you are tied to this person for at least 18 years, whether they're a part of the child's life or not. I mean, if they decide to come back around, you're still tied to them because that's your child's father. So why put yourself out there?
Well, I mean, I know that I'm tied to him for the rest of my life until something happens to me or him or whatever. But honestly, I think when I started talking to him, I think it was because I started feeling lonely.
Okay.
And because I was homeless and sleeping in my car and felt like I had nobody, I think that's why I reached out to him. So I reached out to him and started talking to him, thinking that I was ready for a relationship, but the whole time I wasn't.
So you thought you were ready for a relationship, but really you just needed some kind of like comforting,
Yeah.
some kind of like to feel kind of some kind of love,
Yeah.
whether that was through intimacy or actual true love,
Yeah.
genuine love. Okay. So did you go to college or anything? Did you graduate high school?
No, I dropped out.
You dropped out. Why did you drop out?
Honestly.
Don't tell me you dropped out in 12th grade.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. That always mind blows me when people get you made it through 12 grades and you get all the way to the last one and you drop out. Why is that? What you drop out for?
Honestly, I was messing around with somebody, and I actually almost went to prison.
Okay.
And because the person that I was dealing with, I don't even remember him honestly. It was just like maybe it was like 4 months that I was talking to him, and then like he talked me into opening a bank, and then he started making
Opening
fraud
a bank?
checks. Yeah, so I opened a bank account.
Oh, a bank account. I thought you was about a bank. I was like, whoa.
He started writing fraud checks, and the detectives came to my school, questioned me, arrested me in the front of the school, and I thought my life was over.
How did that play out?
Because I was the first time offense, they had a program, and I was able to get on that program, and I had to pay a bunch of money back to the people or to the bank, and after that, once I paid it all off, I couldn't get in trouble while I was paying it off, or I would have just threw my whole life away. And so after that, I just dropped out of school.
Did you go back and get your GED?
I did get my GED. I ended up going to Job Corps to get my GED.
Do you think that with the GED, do you think that holds you back or puts you like a step below somebody who has a high school diploma?
Honestly, sometimes I used to feel like that, but now I feel like it's like pretty much the same damn thing.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like that there's no, like, I mean, obviously I'm grateful that I got my high school diploma.
Yeah.
I was able to walk the stage. I felt like it was pretty dope. But I see people who are in the same workforce as me who have GEDs. And it's like,
Yeah, that's like meeting the janitor. He graduated from high school, went on to college, and he ain't got what he went to college for. He working a janitor, and here I am with a GED and doing the same thing you doing.
Okay,
We're
so
not
you're a
different.
janitor at the daycare?
Nah, I'm not no janitor.
Oh,
I actually run a classroom.
I was gonna say, hold on, 'cause I thought you was like pretty much like a nanny
I'm just
before.
saying that
Yeah, I got you.
we're all the same. Like me with a GED and somebody with a high school diploma, you're no different than me.
Yeah.
I got my education, you got yours. We just got it two different ways.
There you go. Yeah, as long as you got it. So you didn't end up going to any kind of college or anything like that?
Now that I work at a daycare, I actually go to college for early childhood education.
Okay. And what made you want to get into like doing the whole daycare thing and like child education and all that?
because of the background that I come from, I know that there's a lot of kids out there that come from a similar background as me. And so you never know what kids are going through unless you work with them. And because I went through what I went through, I want to make sure that children out there are loved.
Okay. And as a kid and as an adult, have you ever been to therapy?
As a kid, I went to therapy. We went to family counseling, family therapy together.
Did you
But
go like personally, just one-on-one counseling?
no, but now I go. When I found out I was having a daughter, that's when I actually took the initiative to go talk to somebody.
Okay. And as a kid going to counseling, how was that? Do you feel like it was effective at all?
I feel like we were just going just to go.
Free.
Like I don't think we was going to solve our problems. I think we was just going just to.
That was your mom's idea to do the counseling?
I think it was either my mom or my little brother's dad
Okay.
that decided that we all needed to go.
How long did you go to counseling for?
I don't even remember. I don't even think it lasted that long. I think it was like 2 months and then we was done.
The reason why I asked about going to counseling as a kid is because, so first I'm excited because I'm going to be interviewing some kids, not kids, but young adults. So I would love to get their input on that. But from an adult standpoint, who was with a woman who had a kid who's in therapy, I just feel like it's not always that productive because, like they always say, if you don't want the help, you're not gonna get the help, right? So a lot of times, kids they're growing and they don't see something necessarily wrong. Your parents are forcing them, or the city's forcing them, schools forcing them to go to this, so they don't necessarily think that something's wrong with them, and then so they just feel like they almost look at therapy like a punishment, right?
Yeah.
And so, in a sense, they're in there and they manipulate the system. These kids are smart,
Yeah.
And so they figure out what they need to say. They know what they did and what they said that got them there. So they obviously know what they need to do and what they need to say to get them out of there, right? To stop having to go every Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever day of the week is, right? And I felt like that was one of the situations with her child was that she figured that out quickly, like what I need to do, because the city said that we needed to send her to therapy, right?
Yeah.
And she went to therapy. She was there for maybe like 3 months, and then the therapist tells us that, oh yeah, she's progressed, she's making progress, and we're gonna release her from therapy. She doesn't need it no more. That she's fine, And I just don't feel like that was productive because, one, like you would think that I've never been to therapy, right? Like actually been to therapy, so I would think that you would need to figure out a baseline for that child or for that person, figure out the baseline of who they are like now, and then figure out, where they're at, and then try to get them to that baseline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can't really do that in 3 months and only seeing the therapist once a week for 45 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. And then this was during COVID, so she wasn't even going into the office every day. She was she was on the phone a lot, So it's like, how do you know that she's good to be released from therapy? Like, how do you know when to release a child, especially a child? Adult is kind of, I would feel like it'd be a little bit different. But even still then, I mean, if the adult is being forced to go there, or if they don't want to be helped, it's like sending somebody to, who's like sending a drug addict to rehab. If they don't want to be helped, but you're forcing them to go there, they're going to do what they got to do to get through the rehab and then to come back out. And then
Yeah, like for me, I went to therapy because for the longest, I thought that I was fine and I didn't need no help. I would just take all my problems and bottle them up. And then once they got too much for me, I'd explode and I'd be angry at the world and take all my problems out on everybody around me, which is probably why I probably have no friends. But I mean, honestly, I feel like therapy helps a lot of people, but you have to go. It only works if you want it to work.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, it's like the second time you've mentioned problems, like your problems. What would you say is like something that's like your least problem, like something that you think that could, if you actually sat down and focused on dealing with that problem, like you probably could get through it and fix it and heal from it. What would that be?
Honestly, like my problems are abandonment issues
That's like your least one.
and self love. Like I don't know how to love myself correctly.
So what steps would you think that you need to take to begin the healing process for like your self love and abandonment issues?
Honestly, I think that's where my daughter comes in play
Okay.
because without my daughter, I'd still be by myself. But because I have my daughter, I feel like my abandonment problems are gone.
Now I'm gonna ask you this because I'm just you know I feel like it's a question, a good question. Are you fearful that having your daughter and her being your healing for your abandonment issues and your self love, do you feel like that maybe um, you won't be able to fully pour yourself into her, and then maybe as she gets older, she develops some
And
kind of resentment?
that's part of the reason why I go to therapy to talk about those problems because as a kid, I didn't have, I didn't really have nobody.
Okay.
It was my mom was always working or she was on drugs or she was just gone and I didn't have a father figure, so then we was in the house by ourselves.
Yeah.
And so when I needed a grown up, an adult, they was just absent. So I think that's why I have abandonment problems and loving myself. I got into a relationship at a young age with somebody that didn't even love me back. And so with that, I think that took a even bigger toll on me not being able to love myself and give me the love that I deserved.
Okay. And so obviously you can't heal from self love and begin to heal from self love issues uh, what, from other people because that's something that's intrinsically
Yeah.
bothering you, right? So what steps do you take to begin to heal from that and begin to start loving yourself? Because
Like I just find
that's where love
for
begins.
me, for loving myself, I find things that are interest to me. So I take a day to myself away from everybody. I even drop my daughter off at daycare to have a moment to myself and for me to find a hobby to do like braiding hair. I braid hair sometimes. And so I'll drop my daughter off at daycare sometimes and I'll go back home and do like a deep clean and take a moment to myself to self reflect on everything that I've been through.
Okay. So you would say that to somebody that's watching this, you would say to that's dealing with self love issues, you would say, especially like a single mom, you would say, probably find time for yourself.
Yeah.
Find time find time to figure out who you are, figure out the things that you love about yourself and that you love to do, and then focus on those things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so on the flip side of that, the opposite end of the spectrum of that, that's the low end. What's something that's like a deep rooted problem that you have or an issue that you have that causes you to have, these depression and anxiety? What's like something that's super deep, like that you kind of push deep down inside of you to avoid because when you think about it and when you talk about it or those emotions come up around it, it's hard to face. What's something that you deal with like that?
That leads back to the abandonment issues. I've never had somebody that I could call my own, and I've never had anybody that I could pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I need you."
Okay.
So I always feel like a lot of people come into my life, and I feel like they come into my life for me to heal them. And so once they get their healing done from me, then they abandon me, and then I have nobody. So that goes back to being a kid, being raised in a house, or being left in the house by myself, or being left in the van in the alleyway while my mom was in the house getting high.
You say left in the alleyway?
In the van, my mom, as a kid, Matter of fact, it's so crazy because I went to the corner store like 2 weeks ago, and the corner store just so happened to be the same corner store where I was pretty much spent most of my life, most of my childhood, in the alleyway in the back in my mom's van.
Um, I'm sorry to hear that. So, did you never partake in drugs or anything like that?
No, which is so weird because like my mom did it, and then my ex that I had, he was in the end of our relationship. He started doing drugs like really heavy, and it was like a replay.
To be honest, because like when we were discussing about you coming on, explaining to you about how other guests, they sometimes they would drink, or they take shots, or some of them even smoke weed or whatever to calm their nerves, be on the episode because can be nervous being in front of the camera. Um, and you literally told me, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything like that. And then sometimes like a little small test, it's like, hey, do you want to take a shot before? And you just like clearly like, I'll take some water. So that's pretty admirable that you stick to that, because a lot of people, they'll say like, oh, I don't drink, but then you can easily pressure them into like taking a shot or even something like that. So that's pretty cool. Do you think that you don't do drugs or drink or anything like that because of
I think
watching
it's
your mom?
because I watched my mom do it, and so because I know what the outcome is,
Okay.
I just stay far away from it.
All right. So I do have another question for you from Facebook from Larissa. She says, as a single mom, how is dating as a single mom, and how do you keep it separate, and when do you allow your child to meet who you're dating? In your
Because
opinion,
I don't date.
I know you said that earlier. That's what I said. That's why I finished it with in your opinion. Like,
I wouldn't want a lot of people around my kid because my kid is the most important person to me. So I'm not about to just have any and everybody around my kid. You have to be somebody real special if you go meet my kid. And if you're gonna meet my kid, then I'm gonna need you to be.
so there's no time limit on, like, you start dating the guy and you be like, oh well, we gotta wait till we've been together for like 4 months and then you can finally meet him.
Yeah, even longer.
I explain that to me, because, and this is why I say that, because as a guy, or just in general, like I look at it like this, like what happens if it's like one of those, it's like a catch-22. All right, so like what happens if you start talking to a guy, right,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's going okay, you're not letting him meet your child, your daughter, because it's so fresh. Let's just say 4 months, 5 months go down the road. In 4 or 5 months, you can become attached. You can start loving somebody. That you guys can be in love with each other. But one of the biggest things in a relationship, especially as a single parent, is how does that other person interact with your child, and how does your child feel about that person? Because I'm not going to sit here and believe that you're going to date a guy who your daughter just ultimately hates. Like she can't stand him. I would think that you would be like, oh no, I can't be with you because like my daughter literally, like you make my daughter uncomfortable or whatever the case may be. So
If my daughter's uncomfortable, then I'm gonna take that as a sign. Like you shouldn't be around me, so I'm just end it there.
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So like, wouldn't you think that you would want to like kind of like have them meet each other a little earlier? Like even if it's just like, even if you're not introducing them as your significant other, you're introducing us. Hey, this is my friend Johnny or ex whoever, you know. And then kind of like, even if you did it around like a family function, wouldn't you think that you want to do something like that, so that way you can see what kind of vibe they pick up from each other? I mean, obviously he's gonna know
I
it's your daughter.
mean, yeah, but then at the same time, no. I just want to keep my daughter safe, especially after what happened to me.
You don't think that you should be introducing them at early on in the relationship?
I mean, yeah, but then at the same time, no.
Because my only concern is that, like I said, like as a guy, I would hate to be in a relationship or talking to a woman, and then 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, you finally introduce me to your daughter or your child, and your child just ultimately hates me, and then now all the feelings that I've developed for you, or you've developed for me, or whatever the case may be, now we just gotta kind of like cut ties completely. Whereas it could be possibly just it could possibly be a simple fix of just let's just say you got like a party, right? And
Yeah.
you say you tell the guy to come to the party, and the guy comes to the party, and you be like, "Hey, Harmony, this is my friend, whatever," um, and then he might play with her a little bit, and she might right then be like, "Oh no," because a lot of times kids pick up energy easier and quicker, right?
Yeah.
So maybe she picks up some energy right then, like, nah, hell no, I ain't fucking with him.
I mean,
And
my daughter don't even fuck with her dad. Well, he just started recently coming around, and
but she don't know him, right? Not really.
She's like, I don't know who you are.
Exactly, so, but that's one of those relationships where as long as no other funny business is going on, it's kind of like you kind of gotta like walk that one through because that's her father.
Yeah.
Other dudes is kind of like, I don't like you. Well, okay, well, she don't like you.
Well, if my kid don't like you, then I can't like you either.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Yeah.
just that. But
Okay.
I mean,
So how do you balance and how do you make time for yourself? I know earlier you said that you sometimes drop her off at daycare, and
yeah. Sometimes I'll drop her off at daycare, go back home, do what I need to do, take time, take a moment to myself to breathe. Because since I've had my daughter, I haven't had that moment, that time like that. So sometimes I drop her off at daycare and call it a day and go home for a minute, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then go back and pick her up. Because I don't like being away from her.
there goes those abandonment issues again.
Oh, yeah.
You young guys have that in common, man. Like I say, as soon as you guys came back, we decided to come back here and start shooting this. Immediately, I mean, so you didn't even get around the corner. Your ponytail was still she could still see the ponytail, and she was already. she was already. She was like, "No, you better come back here." Is she one of those kids who you can't even go to the bathroom?
Man, every move I make, she right there behind me.
Because I know growing up, that's how we were with my mom. I know we did a number on my mom. Like, I remember, like my mom would be like, going in the bathroom, and then like we come home from school or some situation
Sounds
pop up.
about right.
Sometimes we wouldn't even knock. We would just open the door like, "Mom, look at this," or "Mom, we need you to sign this," or "Mom,
Sounds
Mom."
about right. That's
she can't even go to the bathroom.
When my mom became clean and she became a mom, that's how me and my sisters were with my mom. We'd be right there. She'd be like, "Give me some space. If I farted, you smell it." And I'd be like, "Please don't do that. I want to be next to you because you wasn't really there when I was a kid the way I needed you to be."
Okay.
So now that you're clean and you're able to be a mom and you're able to function as a mom, then I want to be right there next to you.
And as a single mom, do you think that? Because I asked this question before on a podcast, so I just want your take on it. As a single mom, do you think that it requires you to have like a quote unquote village when it comes to raising Harmony?
I believe that you do. I'm a village for a lot of people, but for me, I feel like I don't have that village. Like I was a village for my sister's kids. I take part in Becca's village, and I take part in these 5 kids that I raised and a couple other kids. But for me, I feel like I don't have a village for my child.
Okay. And do you think that makes it harder on you? Like just overall harder on you as raising your daughter?
Honestly, no. I think being a single mom and not having a village is fine. I think the hardest part about raising my kid and being a single mom is not having my mom here with me.
Okay. Do your siblings, like your sisters and stuff, do they like have a relationship with your? I think I seen a picture of your sister holding Harmony on Facebook, and you spoke on that. So they are they like
when they come to town, they make it be known that who they are.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was
Yeah.
gonna say like do they, even with the distance between them, do they make sure that they are part of her life?
Absolutely.
So she knows exactly who they are and everything
She
like
knows who they are. When they come to town, they make it so that they find the time to be with her, and they get that relationship with her.
that. Do you plan on having other kids?
Hell no.
So you're gonna make her be the only kid?
Listen, I'm not doing it again.
What if you find like a guy like and like you guys decide to like really be together and he's you guys are progressing
I mean, if
and you guys end up getting
if
like
that works in the future, then
so you're not closed to it, but like right now in the foreseeable future you're like nah, it ain't happening.
at the moment, no. But if it happens, it happens. I mean, I still believe in love. Um, but right now, I feel like it's not meant for me. So
Well, and why do you feel that way though?
I just feel like it's not meant for me right now because I'm not fully healed from everything that I've been through.
Okay. And so as a single mom, everybody these days, right, are dealing with like financial crisis, right? I was just talking to my mom earlier about how it was kind of funny. We were in Walmart, three of us guys, and we're counting eggs to see which eggs were the best deal. It was like an 18 pack for like $8.54, and then like a 30 count for like $15.
Yeah.
We were literally had our calculators out, and we're dividing it by the eggs to see which one was a better deal. So obviously, it's tough out here for everyone, and even being in a two-parent household, it can be rough. So as a single mom, like, is finances something that you really? I'm not trying to get in your pocket. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, do you find that to be like a big stressor for you?
Heck yeah.
And how do you? Obviously, you can't change your job, so like, and you said you're your own village. So like, what do you do?
I recently just started asking my child's father for some extra bit of money.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. So I want to know about this, because what I want to know about that is I want to know your opinion about child support because I have mixed emotions on it on child support.
Honestly, I was so against it. I didn't want nothing from him. He stopped coming around, and I didn't want nothing to do with him. I just wanted him to be a dad. I didn't want no money from him. I didn't need anything because even now to this day, I still feel like I could do it all by myself. I don't need your help. But as my daughter gets older, she gets more expensive.
Yeah.
And if she gets sick, then I have to miss work. And if I'm sick, I miss out on work. So your little bit of money that I'm asking you to give me, you shouldn't have a problem doing that because I never asked you for a penny.
Now, here's one of my dilemmas I have with child support, right? So if you're going to put the child father on child support, do you feel like as a mom that you should be able to then dictate at what levels he could be a father to his child? Meaning, like, can he see his child? Can he talk to his child? Because now you have no problem taking the money from him, but then you want to put limitations on him being a father.
I'm open for him to be a father. Like when I asked him to leave in the beginning, I told him when I asked him to leave my house in the very beginning, I said you're more than welcome to come see her whenever you want. The door's always open. Even now to this day it's still open. But because you can't be consistent with it, I'm going to make a schedule for you. So because my daughter don't know you, you come every Saturday for an hour, spend time with her.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, obviously that's in a protection thing of the child, their feelings, their emotions, and you're trying to assist with a healthy development of a relationship between a father and his child. So that's perfectly fine. But what I'm talking about is so many times you see these moms out here who have these children with these dudes, and they have no problem putting the child on the father on child support, but then you want to badmouth the dad, and you want to keep the dad away from the children, or vice versa. Sometimes dads do it too.
I will never badmouth my child's father to my child or to anybody because that's not my place to do.
Correct.
So I leave that with the man upstairs because that's his place. It's not my job to do that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person because my mom did that with some of my sister's dads. And so I see how that works, and that just doesn't play well. So then I just I just let it be, and
So,
that's just that.
so like I'm saying, like my point is, do you feel like though that you should be able to that is right, or that a mom should be able to collect child support monthly from a guy, but then when that guy wants to be a part of his child's life because of situations that you guys have had as a couple, you you should do you think that you should the
To
mom
keep a child away from their dad?
yeah
Absolutely not.
because I just that's my biggest one of my biggest dilemma one of my biggest is like how can you say that um, you care about your child but only thing you take and you say you care about the child and you say that the other parent, whether it's the father or the mother, whoever is the non-custodial parent who's on child support, you talk trash about them, but you take their money. Like I don't understand that. Like how can you do that? How can you talk trash about that person to their children and just to everybody, but you think so low of them and you don't want them to be a part of the child's life, but you have no problem every month taking that money and spending it.
I feel like if you can take the money from him, then you should. You laid down, you had a kid with that person. Why are you bad mouthing that person? That don't make no sense to me. If he is wanting to be a dad and he's giving you the money to support that child, why not let them have a relationship? And if they have a relationship and it's the best relationship in the world, then let them continue doing that. Why are you stopping that man from being a father?
Or vice versa, because there's probably some guys out there who do that about the moms. I mean, the roles can be flipped. It's not.
I mean, I know that my child's father talks bad about me, and I know he do. He be talking about I keep her from him, and that's a lie.
But I think a lot of honestly, to be as a father, I think a lot of I think a lot of us men, we like I'll speak for me. Like in the beginning, like I didn't say nothing. I mean, even to this day, I don't really say it. Like I don't outwardly talk bad about like my older children's mother. I don't. I don't say nothing really bad about her. We have our issues, but I don't. I keep the speaking negatively about her to a minimum.
Yeah.
One, because at the end of the day, no matter what kind of problems we have, and no matter how she treats me when it comes to my children, and all that stuff, at the end of the day, obviously she's done a great job raising my children. I see my children are healthy and thriving. So there's nothing really bad I can say about that, and that's really all that I ask. I mean, of course, I would love for our relationship to be better and to be on a different spectrum, I guess you could say, in a different place. I'll say that, but I don't outwardly just be out here like, oh yeah, f that girl, she's a piece of crap, or I don't really do all that kind of stuff because at the end of the day, that's my children's mother, for one, and for two, if I do have anything that I need to say, I say that to the people who are part of the situation or that have been a part of the situation since day one. Like
Yeah.
my very, 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 very close friend that I call my brother. Like he was there when we had our situations that happened. He was right there. Or like my mom who was there. Like we'll have those conversations, and I like to keep it to them, just to them, because just like my boy I had on here on episode 6, I have a good circle. My circle
Yeah.
doesn't. They don't let me just be like, oh, this is my opinion, this is how it is, and they just support 100% that. They support me, but they also give me the raw truth of where, hey, Sean, hey, Herc, this is.
And see, that's how it is with Becca. Like, Becca is the only, like, as of now, Becca is like the only person that I go to and talk to about my child's father because I have nobody.
Yeah.
And so, when I found out I was pregnant, Becca was the first person I told. She was the first person I told, and it's just been like that since. Like, I tell her everything about my child's father. I don't badmouth him like, oh, he's a piece of shit or anything, but like, it just makes me mad that you say you want to be this great dad, but then I had her and you weren't even supportive.
Because ultimately, in the end, it's gonna affect the children. You know, like, and I think that parents forget that. I spoke about that before, but it affects the children. It's gonna make eventually. It's gonna make the children initially resent the non-custodial parent, and then as the child gets older and the truth comes out, that the custodial parent was just being malicious, then you face a possibility of the children now becoming later on in life resenting you because you've formed this wedge between their parent. You see what I'm saying?
And see, that's how it, like, for me, because when I was pregnant with my daughter, her dad made it seem like he was about to be this great dad that was going to do everything and he was going to be hands-on dad. Matter of fact, I was like this close to moving to Georgia. I was so close to moving to Georgia.
With him?
No, by myself.
Oh, okay.
But then I found out I was pregnant and I was like, I can't keep my child away from their dad because I know what life is like without a dad. And I didn't want to do that to my kid. I couldn't do it. I want to do so bad. And now that I think about it, I feel like I should have. But then I'd be mad at myself for keeping a child away from their dad.
So, as a single mom, obviously, you know, that's like, some people frown upon being a single mom. Do you feel like that?
I love it.
No, I'm not saying you don't. What I'm saying is, like, in society, do you feel like there's people that frown upon you for being a single mom?
I'm sure there is, but I don't care.
Well, because one of the supporters, Charlene, that's one of her questions she asked. She asked, like, how do you deal with societal criticism of being a single mom?
I don't pay no mind.
It doesn't affect you at all mentally? No? That's good. That's good. And then, because we brought her up, another one of Charlie's questions was, what about the challenges as a parent what about the challenges a parent faces pursuing personal development goals? I know earlier you spoke about how you make time for yourselves, but what other kind of things do you do to kind of like, you know, to develop those goals and stuff like that you might have for yourself, whether it's, you know, financial goals, life goals, career goals?
I journal a lot.
You journal?
Yeah. So I write everything in a journal. I got a journal for everything.
Okay.
I got a journal for all my financial problems. I got a journal for all my goals. I got journals, letters for my daughter. I got journals, letters for my mom. So I write a lot. I journal a lot. So,
You just writing down like your thoughts about it?
Yeah.
Oh. Because I never was really into journaling.
I
reading.
I started and then I like fall off, but then I go right back to it because it's just like it helps a little bit. Like the journal that I really write in the most is like letters to my mom because, again, like I said, being a single mom doesn't bother me. Being a single mom without my mom is the hard part.
I can see that, you know, because you just probably I feel like I can only imagine being a single mom without having your mom in your life, but like, cause like being a dad without being raised by your actual dad, I know, like, for me that affected me in so many different ways. Like I said earlier, I had my stepdad and he taught me a lot, but you know, just like I said on episode 1 of this podcast, it's not the same. As much as people want to believe that having a stepfather or a stepmother is the same, it's not the same. Like they could show you love and they can raise you and do the best they can, but you don't have that biological bond. You know what I mean, that you would have with your biological mother and your biological father, like, because that's your heritage. That's who you are. You are who you are because of their DNA, right? Coming together and making you.
Yeah.
So you develop this love for that step parent, but it's just not the same. And I just think that a lot of people don't understand that. But being raised by a stepfather, who still to this day I love and respect, but it's not the same. You know, like having my biological father there, present with me, would have made a big difference in a positive way too. Because that's the thing too. Like, and I'm not throwing any shade at my dad. a biological father saying that he would have been there and been negative. Who knows? He wasn't there. But if he would have been there and been in a positive way, who knows what kind of different paths my life would have went down. And I'm grateful. I don't have no regrets. But I'm just saying, like, I think that people forget that the beauty in that and the importance of having that. You know, even the parent who makes the choice not to be a part of the child's life, and then the parent who makes the choice to not have the other parent a part of the child's life. Both parties are not thinking about, you know, what you're doing to that child in the long run.
Yeah.
You know, you're making. I feel like you're developing a mentally unstable, emotionally unstable, you know, human being.
Yeah.
Because their emotions and their feelings are going to be like this. You know,
All over the place.
yeah, because they don't have nothing grounding. I feel like a mom and a dad is like a positive and negative. You know, like on a battery. You know, like you need both. You know,
And honestly, you know, like growing up without my dad, because my dad died when I was like 3 or 2, and his, like, the effect that it took on me, like, I tried to, like, I didn't find my dad's people until I was 23.
okay.
And when I reached out to them, their response to me was they didn't. When I asked them why they didn't come looking for me, their response was because we didn't know that you exist. And that is another reason why I didn't move to Georgia, because I thought that having my kid here and raising my kid here, I would have the support from her dad and his people. But they just, I don't know.
All right. So
I don't want to badmouth them.
No, it's all good. So we're gonna about to wrap this up, but we do have a couple more questions we got to get through, and then I have one more question for you, and then we'll get you out of here. Okay.
All right.
All right. So we got Soul and Bone from Instagram. She asks, "Do men treat you different because you have children, and have you had any weird/rude interactions?"
Honestly, no.
They don't treat you different?
No, they be wanting to get my time, but I'm like, I have a whole kid, and I don't want to bring my kid around you right now.
So do you think that men, you don't struggle to acquire men or keep men because you have a child and you're a single parent?
No.
Because there's a lot of I've seen a lot of podcasts out there where they promote that. They think that when you're a single mom that you struggle to keep a man. No man really wants a single mom to be serious with them.
I mean, I've heard all the stories about that, but I feel like if a guy really likes you and you have kids and you're a single mom, then.
But I mean, yeah, we're like in our 30s. Like, what do you expect? I mean, they're gonna. When I was out of the market, almost every woman that I encountered had kids, and if she didn't have kids, honestly, for me, if she didn't have kids, it was kind of weird. I felt like she was selfish, because you're 30 years old, you know, and you haven't had kids yet. Like, I need to know why. Like, I mean, if you just struggled, there's those women who struggle to get pregnant and stuff like that. Okay, I'll give you that. But then if you don't struggle to get pregnant, why is it that you never got pregnant?
I mean, my kid's one, and I just had my kid a year ago,
but you also
people thought that I was weird because it was weird that I didn't have no kids, but I also had these 5 kids. And people was like, those aren't your kids. And I was like, but they are my kids. I buy clothes for them. I buy food for them. I help.
But you were also dealing with a lot of different things emotionally and mentally as well, like you said earlier. You know, so that's a little different. I'm talking about these people who are out here vibrant, social. You know, because you don't strike me as the woman who's going to be all over dating sites and in the clubs and the bars. You don't strike me as that.
I mean, honestly, I used to be on dating websites, and I used to post pictures that I probably shouldn't post to share with the world because
OnlyFans before OnlyFans. He was on OnlyFans before OnlyFans.
And I think it had a lot to do with everything that I went through as a kid, and I think that that's why I did what I did. But honestly, I stopped doing that. Like, now that I'm a mom, I ain't going down that road no more. I think I was just looking for attention that I didn't have.
All right, then our final question of the day from our subscribers is, when did you feel you were at a breaking point, and what kept or motivated you to keep pushing on? Like, what was that time in life that you just felt like you were just it's done, like you're done?
It was around the same time my mom died and I broke up with my ex of 10 years.
And what you didn't have your daughter yet, so what kept you through that?
Honestly, I don't even know. I just I woke up one day and I was like, I need to find. I was honestly in a dark hole, dark space. Like, I didn't want to be bothered by nobody. Like, I had so many anger problems right after my mom died and I broke up with my ex of 10 years. And then, like, that lady called me and was like, hey, I need you to watch my kids for me. And then it turned in from the weekends to every day. And I think that took that that helped me get through what I was going through because them kids honestly saved my life.
Yeah.
And without them, I probably would have spiraled all the way out of control. Like, I probably would have just took myself. But because I had those kids and they needed somebody to show up for them, then that's what helped me the most.
Thank God for those kids, man. That's probably God sending you those kids.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's why. I feel like that's what happened.
All right, so one thing I like to do, because the whole purpose of my podcast is to hopefully help somebody to somebody who's watching, subscribed to the channel, they can learn something from your story. And I mean, you have a unique story. I feel like we're gonna have you back here to talk
Hey,
to
you
get
know
to
what?
dig more deep into this story because
I would love to come back.
I feel like we just kind of like scratched the surface with you. You got so much to share, and I think a lot of women, a lot of young women can learn from your story. I'd love to have you back so we can, dig deeper into that story and so people can learn something. But coming from somebody who's dealt with childhood trauma, unfortunate, dealing with molestation, as a single mom, someone who deals with abandonment issues, anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. What kind of advice would you give to a young woman or a single mom or just somebody who's going through this similar situation that you have? What kind of advice would you give them to keep them going and to encourage them to, fight another day, keep fighting?
Honestly, I would tell them to find someone to talk to. Like, having somebody that's there to support you mentally is like probably the best thing ever. But because I don't have that, I go to therapy, and I go once every 2 weeks, and that's where I get I talk about all my problems. Every problem I ever dealt with, I talk to that lady about it, and it stays right. And I go in person, and going in person and talking to that lady on Fridays and leaving it in that room and walking out, I feel so much better after that. So go find somebody and talk to them.
I agree. That's one of the biggest things that I kind of like push on this podcast. Usually, at the end, something I talk about is make sure that you talk to somebody. That's one reason why I started this podcast was after Malia passed away. Me and my brother were kind of talking about it. We just kind of like needed to provide a space to give people an opportunity to start talking because talking is like the first step in healing. In that direction. So I totally agree that start talking to somebody who is mentally strong, non-judgmental, and somebody who really has your I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but best interest at heart. There you go. That's what I'm trying to say. Really find somebody who has that because just talking to any random person, they might give you the wrong advice or there might be a yes man or woman, meaning like they're not going to tell you like you need that person who's going to give you that tough love, that compassion, but also that tough love. To tell
And see, my therapist tells me what it is. Like, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to do it, and this is your problem. And I'll be like, and in the back of my head, I already know it because I've sat by myself for so long that I know what my problem is, and I have the answers to them, but I need to hear them from somebody else.
Correct. All right. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on today. Like I said, I would love to have you back so we can do, dive deeper into your story. Because, like I said, I think that you really have a story that a lot of people, especially a lot of younger women and women, can relate to and possibly learn from. So I definitely like to have you back on. But for all you guys who watch this episode, drop a comment. Let us know what you think about her story. Let us know if you'd like to have her come back. And like as always, like she said, like I always say, find somebody to talk to. And if you're following this channel, then obviously you know how to get in touch with me. At the beginning of the podcast, you saw my handle. Never hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always there to talk, to listen, for whatever you may need. And if you don't want to talk to me, like she said, find somebody to talk to that you can trust. You guys be blessed, stay positive, and keep living the fight another day because you are worth it. We out of here.
See you later.
Appreciate you.